I didn't want to flip the streaks that you had. But hey, goodness, yeah. Welcome back to another Storm Postgame Report. Once again, I'm in the Lumenfield press box, as you can tell by the nice NFL thing they've got over here. I thought I was going to be at Storm for this one, but I figured we've got Tuesday's game against Dallas. This is one of the last Sounders games before they play that whole Club World Cup thing, which is a whole other discussion. So, I had to prioritize, which is tough. Christian here obviously saw the whole game. This is a tough one. This is another tough one. Not in the fact that Seattle had a lead and squandered it, nor were there what 7-1s in this one, but this is I always thought this game was going to be tough. Um, because the Aces had a nice bounce back game against the Sparks after losing last Sunday, right here in Seattle. And any team after getting blown out by 20 is not going to want to repeat that, right? They want to get some revenge in that sort of sense. And so I figured that that was sort of going to come, and it did. Vegas after weathering I would say a little early storm, but it was really just Gabby Williams. It felt like Gabby Williams for most of this game, right? Um, Vegas had control. Their lead was as big as 17 in this one, which is funny thinking about the last game. Seattle was outscored by 10 in the first quarter, was able to make it closer in the middle frames, down both middle frames. Vegas outscored Seattle 17-15. Um, Fourth quarter, Seattle wins by 9 points, but it's obviously not enough. So, Christian, you saw more of this game than I did. I had to bounce between T-Mobile Park and Lumen Field today, but I don't know. It seemed like there were good moments, but obviously, you know, in general, and again, I know we'll talk about it, but Seattle's not a finished product. I think, it's funny the quote that Dom had. I was reading because Christian does a great, he grabs a few quotes from the post game um, that are important. He puts them out there, and I was reading one of them, and it was Dom's quote about the team around her, and for some reason, I thought it was Noe. I was like, that quote kind of encapsulates the game for me about having good teammates around her, but getting better. So, um, yeah, man, I don't know. What did you see out of this one? What did you see out of this 75-70 loss to the Aces at home, the second game of a three-game homestand?
Yeah, it's tough. You win three straight, and you lose two straight. And you remember the dream game, I believe it. Seattle was up by 17 at one point. And then you go to the next game, you're down by 17. You come back. I mean, you have a ferocious 13-4 run down the stretch in the final frame, and it just simply wasn't enough. It really all goes back to that third quarter of the first 5 minutes where Vegas was held scoreless, and Seattle could only score 8 points and just couldn't really climb the hill. That's really where it stems from, at least in the second half. I mean, the first quarter, you give up 8 turnovers. I mean, luckily, they weren't like transition eligible at least. Not really that happened. It's kind of unforced errors by Seattle. Vegas, only had 7 points off of those 8 turnovers, which is kind of a good thing considering it could have been at least double that, considering the way they were shooting from three in this game. But yeah, it's kind of hard to understand how these games are going to go with Seattle this year because there have been multiple stretches throughout several games now, at least through the first seven, where Gabby has been hot, Skylar has been hot, and Nick has been hot. But for a majority of these games, they really haven't been consistently all together clicking on all cylinders. And I think that's one thing that's kind of hurting Seattle right now. It's hard. You go through the second half. I mean, I feel like I've said multiple times already that, such and such is the only player to net more than two field goals. Today, that was Gabby Williams. I mean, at one point, she was responsible for 51% of the team's offense for 18 points. And I think Seattle had like around in the mid 30s. So, you know, it's it's kind of, frustrating, to say the least, when you know the potential of a certain team and the players that are on it. You can credit Vegas as much as you want, right? But this game was right there for Seattle within one or two possessions with less than a minute in the game. I saw a lot of people kind of commenting on that last possession. No, he was actually asked about that. And, she didn't say that they were really looking for a three. She said they were looking for the best shot available. I guess my question is, with 13 seconds left on the clock, there isn't really a good chance you're going to get the ball back. You're going to play the foul game pretty much the rest of the way, and the game is lost at that point. So Erica Wheeler had fell down initially during that possession, but then she, got back up. I mean, there was a window for Don to kind of hit her, at least try to get a shot up from behind the line. That just wasn't there again, like I said before, after the post game. I kind of just thought that was a rookie mistake. There are going to be games where she actually hits that, and maybe it goes differently. But at the same time, I just can't hold one possession, especially on a rookie, when there's 40 minutes in the game. And, Seattle just didn't show up really for majority of the game. And that just really goes back to the inability to, produce consistently on offense when you're not getting points in transition. You look at today, they beat Vegas points in the paint with 30-24 margin. Second chance points was 17-7. I mean, there really wasn't that much disparity as far as the kind of categories that Seattle usually leads in. But when you aren't, leading in those overwhelmingly, sometimes like they had a 24-10, I think, fast break advantage. Was it against the Dream? I can't remember what game that was. Recently, that was one of their advantages. I think it through the first half, and it's like if you're not getting those points, it's kind of hard to come by. But you think about it, they had 34 points, league record so far through 7 games of the season, and then you drop 30 points in the first half, in this game. So yeah, it's just kind of puzzling to understand. Again, I know we're barely 10 games into the season, and like Moby said, there's still 37 left. But at the same time, the issues that we're seeing are the same issues from last year. So I just don't think you can just say, well, it's early in the season at this point, because these are consistently against teams that you're going to have to see on the way, for a championship.
So, and that's perfect because I was thinking about this actually as the Sounders game ended and the Storm game, we were waiting for press conference. How much of this is trend, something that's they're going to have to deal with, like they're going to have to work through it. How much of it is reality, right? And how much, like, I guess there are three things to look at when we're doing these, and is like, what's real? Like, this is real. This is who they are. What is the oh God, I feel bad. I think it's Mike Singletary. It was they are who we thought they were. It might have been Mike, but I think the quote I'm talking about, right? Like, the shooting disparities. That's one thing I feel like with this Storm team, aside of Gabby Williams, who has taken that jump, and I'll talk about Gabby because another big game from the French Army knife in this one. But stuff like that. Stuff that is a trend, something that, hey, maybe they are going on a run of shooting the ball well. One last, but the trends are a thing, and just a flash, right? Like there are games that just something happens where this is never going to happen again. I would say the Liberty Sun game, but I, I would say losing by that much is a flash. But Jesus Christ, this league surprises you so often, right? Um,
I know you watched the majority of the fourth quarter, right?
mhm.
What do you think about Ezzy kind of being benched down the stretch for Doug? Is that just because you think she was the hot hand, or at that point she was kind of playing the best defense? What do you think that was?
That's a great
Because
question.
someone asked, I can't remember who that was, asked Noe that in the presser, and they kind of didn't get answered.
mm,
As expected, coaches are really gonna, pit a player against each other, another one.
mhm.
So yeah, it's
It's a great question because I didn't want to talk about Dom, and I guess that kind of leads into it. And I was looking over the box score to look at Ezzy, and seeing Ezzy, 7 points, 9 rebounds, solid, 2 assists, sure. Um, I mean, in that instance, with how Dom was playing, and I guess you know, there are a few things with Dom, like some other players you can talk about Dom's fluidity and length, but I feel like Ezzy has those things too. I'm not saying Ezzy moves like a guard, but so often she's been listed as a forward as well. So I'm saying like those aren't reasons. Like we're if I'm trying to like check things off, It wouldn't be that. I don't think it would be that. Um, I think, at least for this game, I'm gonna go with hot hand. I'm gonna go with that opinion because I mean, the clip you posted specifically, the nice little take advantage of the space she got, the nice smooth jumper. It really was a little bit like some poetry in motion. I don't know any French. I will not offend Rowan, who is not on the call. Um, but I mean, I think he posted she had 8 points in the
She
fourth.
scored the first 8 points for Seattle before an Erica Weir three. No,
Thank,
it was Erica Weir three. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, that. I'm like, well, hey, she's running. She's
they
found
had
this
11
pocket.
points of Seattle's 13-4 run. I just realized that.
Jesus. It, see, there are
That's
things
not
that are
good.
fun that
I'm not saying
surprise you
I'm
about
not
this
saying
team.
that's not good, but the fact that do I even want to see the
I'm,
fourth quarter numbers? Let's see.
I
Fourth
mean, I
quarter.
can understand what you're saying, right? It's like you
Yeah.
want your big name players to show up in the big moments, for sure. Now I'm curious. Now I do want to look.
Dom was 4 for 7 on fire.
Okay.
Erica Willis 3 for 4. Nneka only took 2 shots the entire quarter. She played the entire quarter. Gabby was 1 for 4. Skylar was 0 for 2. Um, I understand there isn't really a log jam at guard like we thought there would be. I'm just kind of surprised that Lexi Brown hasn't really consistently seen the court so far. Guess it's kind of one thing that sticks out from me watching these games.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess to wrap up my Dom thoughts, Jesus. Yeah. I don't know. It's like so I mean, I think we've said this, right? It's like mm, we're not going to show up to the pre games and post games and just ask about Dom every single time because it gets tiring, right? It's again different skill players, right? But who does it remind you of last year with people asking questions about Nika,
Yeah,
right? Like they're going to get tired of asking and answering those questions, um, especially when it's usually not like there's no correlation to the amount of playing time. Like obviously, again, different situations and different players, but like when Dom was getting the handful of minutes from that first, I can think 3 games of the season, it's like, okay, I can get asking certain questions, but it gets to a point, right? But anyway, I think this was a good game for her, and Coach Quinn's answer about, you know, growing up. I think that was something to take out of this, right? You want to talk about positives to take out of this, or people like I'm leaving with something. You could take Dominique Malonga, growing into. I mean, because I think you might have tweeted about it, but it was she got some of those while Asia was off the court, right? It's like,
yes,
hey, take advantage of that, right? I mean, that's an all-world player. Like, go ahead, get those buckets. If there's not anybody that's going to be able to match up with a player like her, go, go, go. Um, so that's what I'm going to go with. But that is like, again, I talk about trends. That's something to put on the wall. I'm not going to leave it here in this building, but like, and think about, right? Because if we get to Dallas on Tuesday, and that's something where it's like, hey, put his in the bench. We're going to get Dom. Like, I'm fascinated. Well, that actually leads me to this. I know we've had a few fans ask, I want to see Ezzy and Dom on the court next to each other, right? It's like that would be, I don't know. It's interesting to think about that. So to answer your question, I think it's a hot hand thing. That's my opinion. I could get that wrong. I've been wrong in the show before. I'll be wrong again. Um, but it certainly is interesting, especially with the talk that you and I had last game, right? Um, so there was something. Sorry, there was something I was looking at. Oh, yeah. I mean, you want to talk about like um you mentioned it here, I believe, earlier in the episode and then online about not being sustainable, right? I mean, Gabby has another big game, right? She starts out hot. I think in the second half there was a run where she stopped the Vegas run. Um, she led you with 20 points. But I'm looking at this box score. Again, box score is one thing, but I see 5 from AC. She made the one shot she had, and she hit 2 free throws. Nneka only had 9 points, 4 of 13 in this one. Ezzy, yeah, 7, through 3 for 5. Skylar 5 for 15. Um, it's just not. and like you said, online, like there have been games where Skylar and Neka will look like the two best players, you'll see in the court, right? But then it's like the ebbs and flows. One doesn't work, you push one button, and the other one pops back up. Like it is game 7.
7. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's another thing. Is that a trend or is that reality? Right?
Honestly, I don't, it's hard to tell, because there are some games where you see it and it's like, I see all of this working. Then Dom comes off the bench and it just, the rotation in the front court. This is the connection between the two that we saw last year just really isn't there yet. And I find that troubling a little bit because the three core players that run that system are still there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are other players there, but Erica really has been great. She's been great more often than she has not on both sides of the floor. I mean, she was on the court, not like physically on the court, but she was literally hitting the hardwood every other play. I mean, diving for loose balls, getting steals, and just giving that energy that you need. That you feel, I feel like there really wasn't anyone else bringing it. And it's like you can account some of that for Vegas in a get back game, right? But at the same time, this team was in it down to the literally down the wire the last couple of minutes of the game. So it's like you can't really use that as an excuse because this is a winnable game. It's like you were down by
Mm-hmm.
20 with 5 minutes left, and it's like, well, yeah, we're gonna try, but at the same time, basketball's a game of runs, but you're just not gonna kill your starters down by that many points. That wasn't the case in this game. But going up against Dallas without Paige Beckers, arguably the worst team in the league at 1-6 now, I believe. You're gonna see it's early, but this is gonna be a make or break game. Seattle cannot afford to lose to Dallas. Yes, this is a league where every team can get got on any given night, but this is going to be a statement, an early statement game. I believe that wholeheartedly.
I It's interesting to point to this, and I don't think I've ever done this on this show. I say as if we've been doing this for years. Um, how do I put this? How do you, is there like a net feeling you have coming out of this game, net positive, net negative? Because one of my personal Twitter followers, one of my mutuals, Jordan at ERR Jordan with a Y, right? Um, they mentioned not wanting to blame refs, especially when you can point to a number of blown opportunities in this game, right? But um, they mentioned some turnovers for Seattle. The turnover problem is interesting. That is something I did want to talk about. Um, some of the fouls, forced shots, obviously the rebounding effort, something we just talked about, right? But they mentioned, with all the costly mistakes that Seattle made in this game, no one lost by 5, right? And they were down to essentially a final bucket before those 2 free throws that Jewel Lloyd hit, right? Is there a feeling that you have coming out of this one? Because I mean, yeah, considering it like in the grand scheme of things, which isn't great because this is one of the, older teams in the league that is just a matter of fact. Um, and how much of the league will be a free agent next year, you can't really think too much about the grand scheme and going forward because you don't really know for sure. But I don't know. I like again the optimist in me. That's the problem. I'm too damn hopeful, Christian. You gotta someone it's as much as the Seattle Mariners have beat it out of me with a lead pipe, it still comes back. Um I mean you think about the growth points in this game for Dom, a solid 8 points off the bench for Erica Wheeler. Gabby Williams continuing to look great. I mean, just really, I again, you can hold this against me. What did I say I was looking for in the beginning of the year? Was more consistency offensively from Gabby Williams. Back to back, what, 20, 18, 20 point games? It's pretty good. She's shooting from three. She's letting the chopper sing. I said that extremely white. Uh, you know, but the again, you look at the
At
other
least
side
you
of
didn't
it.
say chopper. How about that? Thank you.
But the other side of it, right? You talk about not really getting all the cylinders firing at the same time in terms of your starting five. the turnover numbers. I'm wondering, is that reality or is that a trend? Um, like I don't know. Is there a net feeling you've got coming out of that one?
Well, for one, now we know for sure that Dominique Malonga is actually in Seattle's plans for the long term future. She's playing
Yeah,
consistent minutes.
yeah.
Let's see, she has played in her last 4 games. She's played over 10 minutes, which is great. It hasn't been that much over 10 minutes. Like today, I think the most that um, she played 12 today, almost 13. So that's the most that she's played all season. I do think that she will get more minutes. Like I've said before on this show, earlier in the season, or still early, within the first couple of games, if Seattle wants to go where they want to go, Dominique Malonga has to be a major part of this team's plan on both sides of the floor. And you see that she came in and made an impact. She scored the first 8 points for Seattle when they really couldn't get anything going in the fourth quarter. She played some stellar defense, some of the best players in the world. She has the ability. I mean, you saw that closeout. I mean, she's closing out like a 6'2" guard at 6'6". And she's not fouling. She's staying with them. She didn't get a blue by, and she picks the ball up. I think it's kind of funny they were reviewing it to make sure that it didn't go out on her. And I'm like, come on. I saw 3 different angles. The ball's out on Chelsea. I think it was Chelsea wrong. But yeah, that's probably one of my biggest positives. Yeah, Gabby swooping. I mean, out of nowhere, the 3 point shot has become one of her biggest weapons. I mean, she is just so comfortable with it. I would love to be able to speak to her and ask her a question, but it's kind of an issue these days. Yeah, I want to ask her about her 3 point shooting, and just
Hmm?
how do you flip the script and become the team's best on the most attempts, almost 5 a game. That's not just
Yeah.
something you just flip a switch and just become great at. Like,
I wish I could do that.
listen, I wish I could, right? Listen, I'd be in the majors playing catcher for the Cubs right now.
There you go.
But yeah, Gabby playing great. Don is playing great. Erica Wheeler being the microwave that Seattle needs on both sides of the floor. She didn't have the greatest game through the first 3 quarters, but she showed up when it mattered the most. I think that's really all that matters. You can look at the final numbers, but it doesn't really dictate how well she did down the stretch. That's about it, honestly. I mean, through
Yeah.
Skylar's last 8 quarters, she
Hmm.
has 3 turnovers. No, she had 3 assists in the last game. She had 3 today, but I think she had 6 in the last game. So the assist to turnover ratio really isn't the greatest the last couple of games. It's the head of the snake that has to be better. That's kind of what Noel talked about in the presser.
I've never seen.
I understand that she said these games aren't going to be often,
I could have probably
but
said
there have been several games this season where it just hasn't been there offensively as a team. Not even just pointing out Skylar with turnovers, but there hasn't
Yeah.
been there as a team. I mean, they've all had games where they don't shoot
I mean,
well,
there was 13
and
guys there.
luckily, and more times than not, other players have stepped up. But in games like this, the Phoenix loss, and the Minnesota loss, there have been stretches where if it's not NECA, Gabby, or Skylar, it's pretty much
I
dry.
mean, he
Like
was on.
Erica has been that fourth player, luckily. Um, Again, more times than not, but she's sitting at 3-4, losing 3 straight after winning 3 straight. There are some questions to be raised.
Hmm. No, I think that's fair. I mean, it was kind of remarkable. Like, obviously, yes, acknowledging that the assist numbers are down. I've been back to doing our point guard matchup. Sometimes I get those wrong. I mean, got it right. I mean, Chelsea Gray, Chelsea Gray. There's her nickname is her nickname for God damn Chelsea Gray. I just wish she wasn't an ace, man. Get her off of that team, please, so I can watch Chelsea Gray basketball and not feel upset about it. Um, but yeah, no, one of the numbers that I put in the graphic is the assist numbers. And each game I've done that, the average goes down. And shit happens. I am really intrigued with that to see how that's, all working out. But all that to say that Skylar's pace tied her for the fastest player in franchise history to record 300 assists with Sue Bird. So that's interesting. But yeah, no, I mean, just if I think I read it correctly, AC didn't touch the fourth. Didn't touch the court in the fourth at all. That's fascinating. Um,
Yeah, I didn't get that. Especially considering the fact that again, this team has a very short kind of not even window, but just depth really at the small forward position. You know,
yeah, no, yeah,
if Alicia Clark isn't being productive, it's really just Gabby out there. And they're running the three guard lineup with Erica Wheeler, which has probably been their most used lineup to date so far. At least with Skylar and Echo on the floor. I'm pretty sure I have to look it up, but pretty sure that's been the case so far. But if it's not the three guard lineup, eventually it's gonna have to go to Don at the three. Eventually, she's the most capable player on this roster outside of Clark and Williams to do it right now.
yeah. Yes,
She
yeah,
shows so fluid. She's going to get burned in a couple plays, but she has to learn. And that's at some point,
yes.
that's going to have to be the case.
The get ready games and the practices you have are not better learning situations or opportunities than the game itself, right? Especially in
Yeah.
this league with who the talent you're playing on a nightly basis.
Like Nick Fain said on the broadcast, the Storm have two players in the top 20 in minutes. That's not sustainable.
Jesus, that
I think
checks out.
I can double check, but I know he said I think NECA was 17.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Um, wow, Jesus. Um, yeah, that was interesting. Just a few things that, you know, are working with this, not working, but
Oh Jesus
are
Christ.
taking
Gabby is sixth.
who's number one?
Kelsey Plum, no surprise. Um,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, Gabby is at 6. Skylar is at 15. Um, NECA
Oh,
is 17. So yeah, 3 players in the top 20.
oh my God.
That's not that's
That's not good. And it's not disrespect to those players. It's just natural. The body, at certain ages
they're
does not handle
veterans.
that.
They're veterans.
Yes.
They can't play these type of minutes this early in the season. But Seattle needs them to in order just to be in
Yeah.
games. You
Yeah.
know,
Like
again,
it's
Lexi
one
Brown can't
thing.
see the floor.
Oh, oh yeah. Where were her minutes at today? Hold on. Oh, she didn't play. What do you mean she didn't play? What do you mean? Oh my God.
DNP CD.
It you, oh my God. Sure. It is 7 games. But for a player that you actively traded for, okay? And I understand they were what, third round picks? Whatever. Sure. But the point is you made a concerted effort to get her, okay? And talk about her to the media, us, about how you see her as a added solution to your shooting problems. And to have 2 or 3 DNPs, that's especially when it's not like the offense was like getting anything they wanted today. Not under. Mm,
I will say this: the
mm,
minutes that I have seen Lexi play, she has been getting killed on screens,
mm.
and that's kind of really part of it. I really think that's part of it
Sure.
because
Yeah.
if you can't defend consistently, then that's you're not going to get playing time.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. I can't believe that. Um, we got a fine member of the Storm media, Masvita, down. Oh, now he's moving away. Maz has been doing Storm stuff for I don't want to out him, but he's been doing Storm stuff for a while, and he does Sounder stuff here too. Um, God, Jesus. Well, and then Christian, it becomes like a few of the teams in this city. How long, if that is truly an issue and it doesn't get better, are you able to admit a mistake? Well, what are you gonna do? How can you admit a mistake? You trade her away for nothing to a team that would want to take a shot. It's not like you can really waiver, right? Because then you eat that money, and it's like, it's okay. Well, that's not great. Um,
I hate to be that guy, but Jade Melbourne on this team solves so many different issues, man.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. Oh my
You
God.
let her go for a bag of chips, not even a name
Hmm.
brand kind.
Oh, what was it? The pick turned into Madison Connor, was it?
Yeah, and then you cut
Just
her.
oh
Because Madison Connor wasn't WNBA ready.
well, that's a deeper thing. Like if I really wanted to, I could sit and like you could look at that the trade history recently with Lexi, Jade Melvin. And
Like,
okay.
what was the point of the trade if you don't keep the pick?
Well that and it's like you knew you needed someone to handle point guard duties behind
Skylar.
Skylar last year, right?
And
And
Jade can do both. She can play
mm-hmm,
one or the two, really.
mm-hmm. Can oh my God. Sorry. It's just funny to sit here and like realize this in real time and like think about it in that regard. I guess that's why we do it, right?
Mhm.
Um, in a sort of similar fashion, um, now I did want to touch on this as someone I was coming into this. Did you see anything specific with the turnovers in this game? Or was it a product of Vegas and how they played, or is it just forcing there? Because, you know, you look at the turnovers, and again, I'm not putting Skylar specifically under the bus here. Obviously, there are other players that contributed to that. Is it just I'm wondering if there's correlation with the number of turnovers and the lack of assists because I mean, I don't know. What did you see anything specific with the turnovers?
Honestly, it wasn't even really Vegas's defense pressing. A lot of these turnovers just unforced errors. You know, that shit gets you benched in baseball. Listen, you're a third baseman. You shacking too many balls that's coming down that corner. I'm sorry, you're Chris Bryant now. You know, past the Cubs run. Do you remember Chris Bryant with the Rockies? That shit was terrible.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember we wanted him here in Seattle and now seeing the contract he's gotten and
I don't even know where he is. New York, the Mets. I don't know.
no, I
Um,
think he's still a Rocky. He's just sitting there rotting away.
oh God, this is the Seattle Storm podcast. I do love baseball, but yes, um, I'm not really. Again, 34 points in the first quarter in the other game, and then 30 in this first half. That's the first quarter starts. Seattle is one of the better teams in the league in the first half. They were negative 17 in the second half entering this game. I'm pretty sure it's lower than that now. But,
Yeah.
these are just things that you kind of look at as kind of hard to fathom that this is the case. You know, this isn't where you want to be coming up on 10 games. And it's a fourth of the season, Chuck.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I mean, this is another challenge for that coaching staff, right? I mean, this is a coaching staff that's got to figure it out, you know, and like, and I don't bring up the ages of these players that you've got to call them old. I mean, that's not what we're doing here. It's just like, you've got to, like, there's a few factors that go into that, right? The age of these players, they can only handle so much in terms of workload. Again, you mentioned three of your players are in the top 20 for minutes played so far this season. That you do have 44 games to play, and that's not including the postseason, right? I mean, and if obviously it's not off to a great start considering how you played today, but if you do well in Commissioner's Cup, you've got that as well to factor in, right? So it's like all about handling that. You are already at a disadvantage in trying to do that because of losing Katie Lou Samuelson's roster spot, right? Um, you're showing a lack of faith, and don't use that verbatim, but that's what it looks like to me with Lexi Brown, right? So there's essentially another roster spot you're not using. Um, can't say anything about Zaya Cook because she balled the hell out against Atlanta. Um, it's up to them to figure out the hole that they've kind of put themselves in, right? Whether that's front office with how the roster is constructed and then trading away Jade Melvin, um, and to figure out the management of the players that you've got. Like, yeah, you and I have talked about this. You've said it on the show that, you know, what, first 10 20 games. I think Coach Quinn said it last year, 20 games is where she would want to fully evaluate this team. You can do that, but you don't want to lose games that are going to matter for you down the stretch or games that you need to be winning because,
Not to mention you give up 60 in the second half to Atlanta,
yeah,
and
Atlanta, that's just
Alicia Gray and Ryan combined for 40 of the 60.
that's just crazy. So I mean, it's just there are things you can learn about this team now. And again, I know we've had folks who have expressed, hey, it's like it is early, da, 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 sure. But like again, it comes down to a few things to me. Is this a flash in the pan? Is this a trend that they can pick? Or is this who they are? Is this reality? And I'm wondering how much of what we're seeing with this team right now in this 3-game losing streak is that final reality piece, right? So, I mean, dude, if we get to Dallas, not to Dallas, if we get to Tuesday and Dallas and we see some problems, we gotta have we have had tough discussions because you know
And
you
it's
can say the whole thing about any given night, right? But you're coming off a 3-game skid that you need to break, right? Like,
yeah, it all starts from Dallas, really. It's not the
that's
beginning
the
of the
thing.
year, but and in many ways for this team right now, losing to a Dallas team that as bad as they are, that's a cost. That's time to start bringing in. Yeah. If you lose this way, you have a 17-point lead, you squander it. You come back down 17, you squander the opportunity down the stretch. I mean, again, that third quarter where you just couldn't get over the hump, you held Vegas scoreless for 6 minutes, almost 6 minutes. That's a problem, but
I
we'll see
mean,
if that carries over.
yeah, no, and that's you bring that up again, and thank you for doing that because that was something I did want to mention. That team, not that team, this team doing that showcases their defense again. I mean, again, we'll say this again to anybody that's new, anybody needs to hear it. Noel Quinn coach teams are defense first. And when you see them do that against a Vegas team that, like you said directly last Sunday, this isn't, the Vegas team of old, but they've got weapons. I mean, Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray, like Jackie Young's. I mean, there are a number of options still on this team, and I mean, Dan Evans, mm, mm, right?
Speaking of that, real quick,
Um,
9 points, 3 assists, no turnovers in 20 minutes. I'm not understanding why people don't think that's a good game, but hey, that's she's a role player on this team. That's what she's supposed to do. That's all I got on that one.
no, no, that's for sure. I mean, so you know, um, oh yeah, like they have weapons, and so to do that, that's encouraging. But then that's encouraging to me. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. And they played some strong defense to get back in that Lynx game, right? Obviously, you still have a test to see how you line up against that Liberty team that just, you know, quite literally took the Connecticut team and put them into the sun. Um, we'll see how they match up against New York. But seeing what little you did with that time frame, see you, Maz. Um, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. So, and you can't. There's no teams in this league can say, oh, and sure, we're kind of looking at them that way, but you can't really look at a ton of them and say, hey, you've got these teams on the schedule, like rattle off some wins. That's not a thing. That is just not a thing in this league. I mean, we've done this the last few episodes, but what do you got schedule wise going ahead? You've got Dallas. You play Phoenix team that was tough today, if I remember that game correctly.
Came
Um,
back down like 19 or something without Natasha Mack,
oh,
without Ka. AT hasn't played the last several games.
oh
that's a
my
tough game.
God. So you've got Dallas, you go on the road and you play Phoenix. Oh my God, what is the scheduling? Mm. Sorry. Home game against Dallas, road game against Phoenix, come back, play a home game against Minnesota. So you get to deal with that team again. Then you go on the road for 3 against Golden State, Los Angeles, Vegas, come back. Oh, hold on. 3-game stretch of Vegas, Liberty, Fever. Oh my God. The point being, there is no stretch where you're like, okay, Storm can go ahead, they can bank some wins. That is not a thing. So sorry. Again, there have been a few realizations and crash outs that I have had throughout the course of this episode. So yeah, man. Anything you wanna mention before we get out of here? Uh-oh, you're muted.
Rookie mistake. Yeah, I'm halfway done pretty much with tonight's gamer. Should be out tonight, possibly. It's still early, right? Yes.
I mean, it's kind of
6
funny.
p.m.
It's
over,
it's still sunny here, yeah.
right? So yeah, hopefully that gets out tonight. If not, it goes out in the morning. But it's not going to be super long. I mean, it's not. You have some time between today and Tuesday to get something more out in depth. Got a pretty good Dom piece on the way. That's got a couple of quotes over the last week. Got a couple of highlights put together of her most recent games. So yeah, be on the lookout on that. Tomorrow, Tuesday by chance, we'll see.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess that's my overwhelming positive coming out of this game is Dominique Malonga's grow up game, so to say, at least for what Coach Quinn said. So yeah, so was not English.
Yeah.
Until we see you on Tuesday, I will actually be at it should be Climate Pledge Arena that day against Dallas. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch the Seattle Storm away games this year?
Away games. Well, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, so I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See you all here.